Lily says you forgot to eat again. The man in the work jacket slid half a sandwich across the counter like we'd known each other longer than 4 Saturdays. I looked at him, then at the little girl curled up in the reading corner with a book about dragons balanced on her knees. She said that. His mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Something like that. I should have known he was lying. Lily Reed was 7, painfully honest, and currently too busy whispering battle plans to a stuffed dinosaur to care whether I'd had lunch. But at the time, I just stared at the sandwich. Turkey, cheddar, mustard. Exactly what I usually ordered from the deli next door. You don't have to feed the staff, I told him. Pretty sure that's not store policy. Neither is passing out behind the register. I wasn't going to pass out. He lifted one eyebrow. Marcus did that a lot. He had this quiet way of looking at people that made you feel like he'd already heard the excuse you were about to make and decided not to embarrass you by calling it out. He came in every Saturday around 2 with Lily. She went straight to story hour. He ordered an Americano, no sugar, and took the small table near the counter. At first, he was just another parent killing time. A tired dad in scuffed boots and a dark jacket with a construction company logo over the chest. Then he started remembering my name. Long shift, Ethan. New haircut. You ever finish that mystery novel? Small things. Normal things. Probably. I picked up the sandwich. Fine. But only because throwing away food is morally wrong. Of course. He leaned against the counter, watching while I took a bite. I hated that I noticed him watching. I hated even more that my stomach tightened when our eyes met. Marcus looked away first, rubbing the back of his neck. Good. It's a sandwich. That bad, huh? I laughed before I could stop myself. His whole face changed when he smiled back. Softer. Younger. It made normal things annoying. Dad, Lily called from across the store. The dragon is the good guy. Marcus turned toward her. I never said he wasn't. You said he burned down a village. Good people make mistakes. She stared at him with the deep disappointment only a 7-year-old could manage. I covered my mouth, trying not to laugh again. Marcus looked back at me. This is what I deal with. She has a strong moral compass. She gets that from me. Does she? For a second, neither of us moved. His eyes stayed on mine. Warm. Amused. A little too focused. Then someone walked up to the register, and I stepped back so fast my hip hit the cabinet. By the time I finished helping the customer, Marcus had returned to his table. I told myself the moment meant nothing. He was friendly. He was a dad. He bought me half a sandwich because I looked exhausted. That was all. Near closing, Lily brought her books to the counter while Marcus helped her into her coat. I leaned down. Thanks for making sure I ate. She blinked. What? I pointed toward the empty sandwich wrapper. You told your dad I skipped lunch. Lily looked at Marcus. Then back at me. No, I didn't. My chest went strangely tight. Across the counter, Marcus froze with one hand on Lily's zipper. Our eyes met again. This time, he didn't look away. Dad noticed, Lily added. And suddenly, the sandwich felt like something I wasn't ready to name. The next Saturday, Marcus put his jacket over the chair across from him before he even ordered coffee. I noticed because the store was packed. Every table was taken, parents were standing along the walls, and one exhausted mother was balancing a toddler on her hip while searching for somewhere to sit. That empty chair should have been useful. Instead, Marcus kept it covered. Saving it for someone? I tried to sound casual while ringing him up. Maybe. His eyes stayed on mine a second too long. My fingers slipped against the register screen. That is very mysterious for a man ordering the same Americano every week. You remembered. You are predictable. And yet you keep watching me. My chest tightened so fast it almost hurt. Marcus looked completely calm, like he had not just dropped that sentence between us. Then Lily appeared at his side holding 3 books. Dad, can I get all of these? He glanced down at the stack. Are any of them about dragons destroying property? Only 2. Then we should probably encourage the 3rd one. She ran toward the reading area before he could change his mind. I handed Marcus his receipt. Our fingers touched. It was barely anything. Just the side of his hand against mine. But neither of us moved right away. The store noise seemed to fade for one stupid second. Then Marcus took the receipt slowly. You working late? Until closing. Long day. I will survive. His mouth curved. That is what you said about lunch. I told myself the warmth climbing up my neck was irritation. It was not. The routine continued for the next few weeks. Marcus arrived early. Lily went to story hour. His jacket stayed on the chair across from him until I had a break. The first time I sat down, It felt like I was accepting something I did not understand. He pushed a coffee toward me. I guessed. I took a sip. Oat milk. 1 packet of sugar. Exactly right. You guessed this. You make it every shift. You watch the drinks I make? Marcus leaned back, studying me with that quiet expression again. I noticed things. That answer stayed with me longer than it should have. Then, one Saturday, rain came down so hard the windows shook. The lights flickered twice before the entire store went dark. Kids screamed. Someone dropped a tray. I reached for the emergency flashlight under the counter at the same moment Marcus stepped behind it to help. Our hands closed around the handle together. His palm covered mine. Got it, I whispered. I know. He still did not let go. For a second, neither of us moved. Then Lily called his name from across the room, and Marcus pulled back like he had remembered where we were. We spent the next hour placing battery lamps around the store and calming people down. When most of the customers left, Lily fell asleep on the couch with her head against a stuffed bear. Marcus could have taken her home. The rain had already started easing. Instead, he stayed while I reset the register and stacked fallen books. You do this every time? He lifted a box onto the counter for me. Handle disasters alone? This barely counts as a disaster. You always avoid the question? I looked up. He was closer than I expected. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back slightly. Only when the question is annoying. Marcus smiled, but it faded quickly. You ever think about staying somewhere long enough to let people help? My stomach flipped. I stay. You told me you leave jobs whenever life feels stuck. That is different. Maybe. His gaze held mine. Or maybe you have not found a reason to stay yet. The room went quiet around us. Not awkward. Worse. Personal. I looked toward Lily because I needed somewhere else to look. When the power finally came back, Marcus gathered her into his arms. At the door, he paused. You work Wednesday? I nodded before thinking. Until 6. Good. Then he walked out into the rain. There was no story hour on Wednesdays. Lily had soccer practice. And for the rest of the night, I could not stop wondering why he wanted to know. Marcus showed up Wednesday without Lily. That was the moment I stopped believing any of this was about story hour. He walked in at 5:30 wearing a navy button-down instead of his work jacket, his sleeves rolled to his forearms. For one embarrassing second, I forgot how the register worked. No dragon expert today? I managed. Soccer practice. He glanced around the nearly empty store, then back at me. I was nearby. That would have sounded more convincing if I had not known his job site was 20 minutes in the opposite direction. I handed him his Americano. You came all this way for coffee. Marcus took the cup, but did not move toward his usual table. Maybe the coffee is good. It is average at best. Then maybe I came for the company. I laughed because that was safer than answering. Marcus did not laugh with me. The silence lasted one beat too long. His eyes stayed on mine, steady and unreadable, until the bell above the door rang and a customer stepped inside. I turned away so quickly I nearly knocked over the receipt printer. He stayed until closing. Not working, not reading, just sitting at the table near the counter, looking up whenever I crossed the room. At 6, I locked the front door and started carrying a box of new releases toward the stockroom. The bottom gave out halfway there. Books hit the floor in every direction. Perfect, I muttered. Marcus was beside me before I could crouch down. You always do everything the hard way? Only when people are watching. Good to know I make you nervous. I looked at him. He was smiling, but only slightly, like he was testing the words. You wish. Do I? The joke disappeared between us. Neither of us looked away. My pulse started pounding in my throat, and suddenly the stockroom felt smaller than it was. I bent down first, reaching for the nearest book. Marcus reached for the same one. Our hands landed on the cover together. His fingers slid over mine. He could have pulled back. I could have, too. Neither of us did. Marcus. His name came out quieter than I meant it to. His eyes dropped to our hands, then lifted slowly to my face. Yeah. I did not know what I was trying to ask. Why he kept showing up. Why he remembered my schedule. Why his hand was still resting over mine. So I did what I always did. I made it smaller. You are crushing the book. His thumb shifted against my knuckle before he finally let go. Right. He stood, clearing his throat, then helped me stack the rest without another word. The air stayed strange after that. Loaded. Every time we passed in the narrow doorway, one of us had to turn sideways. Once, his hand touched my waist to keep me from backing into a shelf. It lasted less than a second. My entire body noticed. When we finished, Marcus carried the box to the front counter. You okay? Why would I not be? You got quiet. I am working. Store is closed. I hated that he noticed everything. I hated that I wanted him to. Outside, he waited while I locked up, then walked me to my car even though his truck was parked across the lot. Before leaving, he looked like he wanted to say something. Instead, he nodded once. Drive safe, Ethan. At 9:14 that night, my phone lit up with a message from him. I stared at it for almost a full minute before opening it. Did not get to ask earlier. Are you free Sunday? There was no mention of Lily. No explanation. Just me and Sunday. And for the first time, I could not tell myself he was only being nice. Sunday is not a date. Marcus told me the second I opened his message again. The problem was, he had not actually written that. I had added it myself because I needed the sentence to be true. By noon, I was standing outside his townhouse with a bag of art supplies in one hand and my dignity barely hanging on. Lily opened the door before I knocked twice. Ethan, she grabbed my wrist and pulled me inside. Dad bought the wrong planets. Marcus appeared from the kitchen holding a wooden spoon. I bought the right planets. Saturn is too small. Saturn is proportional. She looked at me like this proved he could not be trusted. You see what I deal with? Marcus murmured. He was wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans, no work jacket, no coffee cup, no counter between us. That should not have mattered. It did. So this is why I am here. I lifted the supply bag. Emergency solar system consulting? Lily needed help. His eyes stayed on me. And I thought you might like dinner. There it was again. A reason that could mean nothing. A sentence that did not feel like nothing. I followed Lily to the dining table before Marcus could see me lose my balance over 6 ordinary words. The next 2 hours were easy in a way that made me nervous. Lily painted Jupiter while I cut cardboard rings for Saturn. Marcus moved between the kitchen and table, pretending not to supervise us. Every time I looked up, he was already watching. Not staring. Just there. Quiet. Focused. Like he was trying to memorize something. Dad, you are doing it again, Lily announced. Marcus froze by the stove. Doing what? Looking at Ethan. My scissors stopped halfway through the cardboard. Marcus slowly turned toward her. I am checking the project. You are looking at his face. The room went painfully still. Lily went back to painting like she had not just ruined both our lives. I forced a laugh. Strong observational skills. She gets that from me, Marcus replied, but his voice came out lower than usual. Neither of us smiled. Dinner was pasta, garlic bread, and Lily explaining every rule of second grade in exhausting detail. It felt normal. Too normal. Like I had been sitting at that table for years instead of one afternoon. When Lily asked if I would come to her science presentation, I opened my mouth to give a careful answer. Marcus beat me to it. He will be there if he wants to be. His gaze found mine across the table. No pressure. No joke. Just space being offered. My chest tightened. I want to be, I admitted. Something softened in his face. Later, Lily fell asleep on the couch with paint still on one wrist. Marcus walked me to the door and held out my jacket. I turned, expecting him to hand it over. Instead, he stepped closer and helped settle it onto my shoulders. His fingers brushed the back of my neck, then stayed there. My breath caught. Marcus noticed. Of course he did. His hand did not move. Neither did I. We were close enough that I could see the faint line between his brows, like he was arguing with himself. Ethan, he whispered. Yeah. His eyes dropped to my mouth, then lifted again. My heart started pounding, so hard it felt embarrassing. He leaned in just slightly. Not enough to be certain. Enough that I stopped breathing. Then Lily called from the living room. Dad. Marcus stepped back immediately. His hand fell away. Coming. I stared at the floor because looking at him felt impossible. He opened the door, but before I could leave, his fingers closed gently around my wrist. I am glad you came. The words were simple. The way he held on was not. He let go after 1 second. Maybe 2. I drove home telling myself nothing had happened. Then my phone buzzed with a picture of the finished solar system and a message underneath. The house felt quiet after you left. By Thursday, I had replayed Marcus standing behind me at his front door so many times that I could not trust my own memory anymore. Maybe his hand had not stayed on my neck that long. Maybe he had not looked at my mouth. Maybe the message about the quiet house was just a tired dad being polite. That was the version I was trying to believe when I walked into Lily's school gym for the science presentations and saw Marcus laughing with a woman I had never met. She stood close to him, comfortable close. One hand rested on his arm while he leaned down to hear her over the noise. She was pretty, confident, around his age, and wearing the same visitor sticker I was. My stomach dropped before I could stop it. "Ethan." Lily spotted me from across the room and waved both arms. Marcus turned. His face changed the second he saw me. Softer, almost relieved. He stepped away from the woman and came straight over. "You made it." I said I would. "I know." His eyes stayed on mine. "I just was not sure." The woman followed him, smiling. "So this is Ethan." I looked at Marcus. He suddenly seemed very interested in adjusting the strap of Lily's backpack. "This is Rachel," he offered. "We have known each other a long time." Rachel's smile widened like she had just been handed information Marcus had not meant to give her. "I have heard a lot about you." Heat climbed up my neck. Hopefully nothing terrible. Mostly coffee, books, and a very serious argument about the size of Saturn. Marcus gave her a warning look. She ignored it. "Lily talks about you too." That should have made me feel better. It did not. Rachel and Marcus moved around each other too easily. She knew where he kept the extra napkins in his bag. He knew her son's teacher by name. When Lily needed help fixing a loose planet, Rachel handed Marcus tape before he asked. They looked practiced, familiar, like a family arrangement that made sense. I stood there feeling like a guest who had mistaken an invitation for something more. During Lily's presentation, Marcus stood beside me. His shoulder brushed mine twice. The second time, he did not move away. "She is nervous," he murmured. "She is doing great. She practiced your part more than hers." I glanced at him. "My part? Apparently you are the reason Saturn survived." The corner of his mouth lifted. For a second, the tight feeling in my chest eased. Then Rachel leaned around him and whispered, "You two are not subtle." Marcus went still. I laughed too quickly. "There is nothing to be subtle about." The words came out sharper than I meant them to. Marcus looked at me, and the warmth in his expression disappeared. After the presentation, I left before Lily's class photo. I told Marcus I had a shift. I did not. For the next few days, I traded hours with a coworker and answered his messages with short, careful replies. He noticed by the third one. Of course he did. On Monday evening, I stepped out of the bookstore and found him waiting beside my car. His hands were in his jacket pockets, jaw tight. Did I do something? "No, Ethan. You did not do anything." Marcus watched me for a long second. "You are a terrible liar." I looked past him toward the parking lot. "Rachel seems nice." Silence. When I finally looked back, confusion had turned into something else. Understanding. "Rachel." He took one slow step closer. "Why do you care who Rachel is?" My mouth went dry. Because there was no safe answer to that question, and Marcus knew it. Marcus looked at me like he was waiting for the truth and already knew I was not going to give it to him. "Rachel is my best friend's sister," he finally said. "Her husband died 3 years ago. Our kids grew up together." I stared at him. The tight knot in my chest loosened so fast, it almost made me dizzy. "Oh, yeah. Oh." He took another step closer. "So I will ask again. Why do you care?" A car pulled into the lot behind us, headlights sweeping across his face. I looked down at my keys. "I do not." Marcus let out a quiet breath. Not a laugh. More like frustration. "You stopped coming over. You changed your shifts. You answer every message like I am your dentist. I have been busy. You have been avoiding me." His voice stayed calm, but there was something underneath it now. Something unsteady. That scared me more than anger would have. I opened my car door. Marcus reached past me and pushed it shut again. Not hard. Just enough to stop me from leaving. Suddenly, he was close. Too close for the parking lot. Too close for another lie. "Do not do that," he murmured. "Do what?" "Disappear and make me guess why." My pulse jumped. "You do not have to guess." "Then tell me." I looked at him, and the words almost came out. "I thought you wanted her. I thought I had imagined everything. I thought that moment at your door meant more to me than it did to you." Instead, I swallowed. "It does not matter." Marcus went completely still. His jaw tightened, and for a second, he looked almost hurt. "It mattered to me." The air left my lungs. He glanced toward the bookstore windows, then back at me. "Sunday. You leaving?" "The way you looked at me before Lily called." His voice dropped. It did not feel like nothing. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. "Marcus. I have been trying to figure out how to do this without making a mess." He rubbed a hand over his face. For the first time since I had met him, he looked genuinely unsure. "I have Lily. I have schedules. School pickups. Work. I cannot just make choices like nobody else gets affected." I nodded because it sounded like the beginning of a careful rejection. "I understand." No, you do not. His eyes snapped back to mine. Because if you did, you would know the problem is not that I do not want this. Neither of us moved. A shopping cart rattled somewhere across the lot. I barely heard it. Then what is the problem? My voice came out thin. Marcus looked at me for a long moment. I do not know how to want you without wondering what happens if you leave. That landed harder than anything else he could have said. I had spent days convincing myself I was the only one losing sleep over this. The only one noticing every look, every touch, every excuse to stay. But Marcus looked just as tired as I felt. Just as scared. His hand lifted slightly, like he wanted to touch me, then stopped between us. I did not want you to leave Sunday, he admitted. And I do not want us to go back to pretending this is only coffee. My chest tightened. So what happens now? Before he could answer, his phone rang. Lily's name lit up the screen. Marcus closed his eyes for half a second, then stepped back. I have to get that. Of course he did. I nodded, trying not to let the disappointment show. He answered, checked that Lily was okay, then looked at me again before walking away. Do not disappear, he said quietly. This time, it was not a request. Marcus did not come into the bookstore for 6 days. I noticed on Wednesday, even though I told myself I was not waiting for him. By Saturday, his usual table stayed empty through the entire story hour. No jacket on the chair. No Americano cooling beside his laptop. No Lily arguing with fictional dragons. I checked the door every time the bell rang and hated myself a little more each time it was someone else. He had told me not to disappear. Then he did exactly that. By closing, I had built the whole explanation in my head. He had gone home after the parking lot and realized he had said too much. Maybe wanting me had sounded different once he was alone with the reality of it. A daughter, school events, parents who noticed everything, a life that already worked. I understood why I would be the part he reconsidered. That did not make it hurt less. On Monday, Lily came in with Rachel. She walked straight to the counter and frowned at me. You have not been to our house. Rachel gave her a look. Lily, what? Dad keeps making too much pasta. My hand froze over the receipt printer. He does. Every Sunday. Rachel pressed her lips together, clearly trying not to smile. Your father is capable of using smaller portions. He says he forgets. Lily leaned closer and lowered her voice. He does not forget. My chest tightened. Rachel sent her toward the children's section, then rested one elbow on the counter. He is not avoiding you because he changed his mind. I did not say he was avoiding me. You have the same terrible lying face. Apparently, everyone in Marcus's life had agreed on that. I looked down. Then where is he? Rachel's expression softened. Trying not to mess this up. By disappearing? By deciding whether he is allowed to want something that is not only practical. That sounded too close to hope, so I pushed it away. He has Lily to think about. Exactly. Which means he thinks about everything 10 times longer than a normal person. Before I could answer, Lily returned carrying a book. A folded piece of paper stuck out from the top. Dad wanted you to have this. Inside was a ticket to a photography exhibit downtown. I had mentioned it once, weeks ago, while Marcus waited for coffee. On the back, in his handwriting, were 7 words. I kept waiting for the right time to ask. My throat went dry. When did he buy this? Rachel glanced at the date printed near the bottom. Before the science fair. Before Rachel. Before the parking lot. Before I had convinced myself I imagined everything. I looked toward the door like Marcus might walk through it if I wanted hard enough. He did not. Rachel's phone buzzed. Her face changed the second she read the screen. What is it? She was already grabbing Lily's coat. Marcus is at the hospital. My stomach dropped. What happened? Lily had stomach pain this morning. He took her in after work. They think it is her appendix. Lily went pale beside her. Rachel crouched and spoke to her gently, but I barely heard the words. Is she okay? I managed. They caught it early. Rachel stood again. He did not want to scare her before they knew. Why did he call you? The question came out before I could stop it. Rachel held my gaze. He did not. She turned her phone so I could see the message thread. He asked me for your number because the first person he wanted there was you. I reached the hospital before Rachel and Lily did. Marcus was standing near the nurse's station with both hands locked behind his neck, staring at the floor like it had personally betrayed him. The second he saw me, something in his face broke. He crossed the hallway fast and pulled me into him. No warning. No careful distance. Just both arms around me, tight enough that I felt the breath leave his chest. I froze for half a second. Then I held on. His hand pressed between my shoulder blades. It was shaking. She is okay, he murmured near my ear. They caught it early. Good. My voice barely worked. That is good. Neither of us moved. A nurse passed us. Someone pushed a cart around the corner. Marcus still did not let go. Finally, he stepped back, but his hands stayed on my arms. I wanted to call you. Rachel told me. His eyes dropped. I did not know if I had the right. You bought me a ticket and then vanished for a week. The words came out sharper than I planned. Marcus looked up. I know. Do you? I pulled the ticket from my jacket pocket and held it between us. Because this does not look like regret. But not showing up did. His jaw tightened. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he guided me toward the empty chairs near the window. We sat, knees almost touching. I was not regretting you. It felt like it. I was scared. He rubbed both palms over his face. Lily gets attached. I get attached. Then people leave. I stared at him. You decided I would leave before giving me a chance to stay. That landed. He looked down at his hands. Yeah. Silence stretched between us. Not empty. Heavy. Honest. I turned the ticket over, tracing the words he had written. When did you buy this? The day after you mentioned the exhibit. That was weeks ago. I know. And the Wednesdays? Marcus glanced at me. I moved 2 site meetings. The bookstore near your house. 8 minutes away. I let out a breath that almost became a laugh. Marcus. I kept trying to find reasons that sounded normal. His knee brushed mine. This time, neither of us moved away. Coffee. Books for Lily. The science project. He looked at me fully now. You. My chest tightened. You could have just asked me out. I have not done this in a long time. Neither have I. You make it look easier. I have been panicking for a month. That finally made him smile, small and tired. Then it disappeared. I was not asking you to be convenient, Ethan. His hand opened between us, palm up. I was trying to make room for you. I looked at his hand, then at him. And if I want that room? Marcus's fingers curled slightly, waiting. Then stopped walking out of it. I put my hand in his. He closed around it slowly, like he was making sure I meant it. His thumb moved once across my knuckles. I am still scared, he admitted. So am I. That does not fix everything. No, I held his gaze. But pretending this is only coffee is not fixing anything either. The hallway went quiet around us. Marcus leaned closer, not enough to kiss me. Just enough that our shoulders touched. I do not want normal back, he whispered. I squeezed his hand. Good. Because I do not think we can go back. 3 days later, Lily came home with 4 small bandages, a stuffed fox from the hospital gift shop, and enough energy to argue with Marcus about dessert before dinner. I brought pasta. Marcus opened the door, looked at the foil pan in my hands, and laughed. You know I can cook. Lily told me you keep making too much. From the couch, she raised one hand. He does. Marcus stepped aside to let me in. His fingers brushed the back of my hand as I passed. This time, neither of us pretended it was an accident. Dinner was loud and ordinary. Lily told the same hospital story 3 different ways. Marcus kept checking whether she was tired. I kept catching him looking at me across the table. Not nervous anymore. Just certain. After Lily fell asleep during a movie, Marcus carried her upstairs. I cleaned the plates because standing still felt impossible. When he came back, he leaned against the kitchen doorway and watched me. You do not have to do that. You cooked. You brought the food. Then we both did almost nothing. He smiled. The kitchen went quiet. I dried my hands and turned toward him. There was no child calling from the next room. No customer waiting at the register. No reason left to make the moment smaller. Marcus walked closer. Slowly. I owe you a real invitation, he murmured. To what? Dinner. Just us. I glanced at the empty plates. This feels like dinner. This was medical recovery pasta. Very different. Completely. His hand found mine between us. He did not grab it. He just opened his fingers and waited. I slid my hand into his. Friday, he offered. Friday works. 7. You are strangely formal now. I am trying to make sure you know it is a date. My chest tightened, but not from fear this time. I know. Marcus looked at me for a second, then leaned closer. Can I kiss you? The question was so simple that I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because we had spent weeks turning every small thing into a mystery, and now he was standing in his kitchen asking for exactly what he wanted. Yeah, I whispered. You can. The kiss was brief. Warm. A little awkward because we both smiled halfway through it. When we pulled apart, Marcus rested his forehead against mine. I have wanted to do that since the power went out. The flashlight. You held my hand. We both grabbed it. I know what happened. I laughed quietly. You are very confident for someone who took a month to ask me out. You took a month to notice. I noticed. You ran away. Once. Marcus lifted an eyebrow. Several times emotionally. I could not argue with that. The following Saturday, I walked into the bookstore on my day off. Marcus and Lily were already at their usual table. His jacket was hanging on the back of his chair. The seat across from him was empty. Reserved. Lily spotted me first. Ethan, Dad saved your chair. Marcus looked up, coffee in one hand. That quiet smile already there. I always do. I sat down beside him instead. Our knees touched under the table. His hand found mine where no one needed to see it. But he did not let go when a coworker walked past. He did not move away when Lily started telling us about a new dragon book. We were back in the same routine. Same coffee. Same table. Same Saturday noise. But nothing about it felt the same. I used to think Marcus kept coming back because Lily loved the bookstore. It took me months to understand that he had been choosing the place where he knew he would find me. And once I finally saw it, I chose him back.